Hey, I'm Dr. Paul Dyer. Welcome to Bridges Live. You'll get Bridges Live every week, and I'll put out the podcast, and you'll see it on the Monday in Bridges Live. You can always catch me on drpaulholisticscience.com, and you can always email me at drpaulwdyer@gmail.com. I'm going to get right into talking about suffering. And I've talked about suffering before. Remember, Bridges is about getting you from here to there, and use that bridge so you can, in your travels. And as we are living our best life, we must know that there are ways, there are pitfalls, there are different things that we misinterpret, misunderstand, and or just flat out ignore. And I think that's where suffering comes in. The human minds are only aware of a small fraction of the universe. And to judge its full is misery in this small fraction. You know, we have this presumption of what the universe and what God is and what it can be. And even in the teachings, even in the educations or the environment or the experience that we are living, we still get a small fraction of our presumptuous idea of what life is. So with Bridges Live and in all of my podcasts, it is to put us in a space so we can have the space to absorb. This is not an argument or any previous argument, so because space-time isn't dispensary. It's against theories and absolute. So where does the suffering come from? Well, we have to add in a human element. We have to add in what we are to life. We have to add in what the individual is predicated on throughout all of history in this human nature, the human condition, the whole complete concept of substance of the idea of living. The universe is still trying to be explained in so many different facets, so many different ways. The mind is not a mechanical object. The brain might be, but the mind is not. The mind is made up of many things, and one of those things is absolute absorption of all things. The mind is made up of absolute absorption of all things. The brain can do chemical responses of what you're absorbing. The universe begins most of its perfect universe. The universe begins in the most perfect of universe. That God is the truth of truths. This is not the laws of human man, which is physics, that has what you say application, applicable, and applied. The truth and properties of individuals are substances where we fall into the discernment of what we are and who we think we can be. The suffering. We can often demand a certain sense of determinism about what we're thinking. We cannot deny the existence of free will. We cannot deny the substance of free will. So what about suffering? So let me tell you about me, real quick, because it's not about me, but we have a personal relationship to. I do have a personal relationship to everything we are doing and talking about. We can't deny that often we miss misinterpret where our true life is. And before we can get into a true life, we must practice true healing. Because we come from experiences, expression, environment, things that are taught, education, and energy. And if you're growing up in times of not healthy that we could be, because I look at my grandsons and I look at my grandchildren and I look at my children and how I had talked to them was different than where we are. And yet, sometimes we're all still working on living our best lives. And that's good. But for me, I'm healing. And to heal, I've been in a practice. Most people know I'm a practicing Buddhist, a martial artist, martial scientist for over 40 years. Been studying the human condition for a very long time. And that is because the brain has a condition, has chemicals, has releases. The body has an action to it. It has an action, has a reaction. So understanding that and studying that has been very important to me. But it's been important to me so I can heal through my traumatic states. So I can be open to allow to absorb the fruits of the universe, the fruits of God, the fruit of pure love and acceptance. So going through the practice, then you realize that instead of you wanting, needing, deserving, you are just absorbing and having. And you are giving and offering. These things are important. Where is home? Where is home for you? What is a home? For me, the idea of a home was only sometimes an idea. But I had to realize home is ultimately the truth and love of pure love. It took a lot for me to get there. I had a beautiful mother. She worked a lot. I had a beautiful father. Didn't live with us. Had a beautiful grandfather. Died early. I had a beautiful home in a not-so-good situation. So we can all have our indifferences to what we live and how we live. Beautiful friends. Sometimes maybe I was misunderstood. Beautiful children. Beautiful wife. But maybe I was being missed. Maybe because I missed me. So when we talk about suffering, we talk about existence. Existence and being. Existence and being. So just like when we talk about sound, we talk about the sound we hear and the sound we don't hear. Because to talk about something, you've actually created the balance of what is. You have being and non-being. So when we have things that we want to talk about and talk to, you talk about things that is and is not. So when you talk about happiness, you're talking about healing, you must talk about suffering. There's a constitution there. Humanity is humanity, and the good of humanity humanity is not benevolent to only you. It is not anything wrong or evil. It is just what life journey is. Humans always will have two sides. Man is, in a certain sense, is redeemed by his passions, but it also creates a problematic of desire. Desire is the wanting. I want. I damn near deserve the damn thing. And that's the ego. That's the ego. That's the ego that we are suffering in. The ego we're causing. The ego that is trying to direct us and protect us. We have mentality. We have, and that is that the mind and the universe is mental, and is the connection to God. We have the correspondence, that everything that is above us and below us is symmetrical. There's a kind of like a list that I had about what we are already. And there we have these different desires that are in between us that has caused our afflictions. We have vibration. Vibration is action. Nothing rests. Everything moves. Everything vibrates. Everything vibrates. I had a recent podcast about polarity. We had the gender, the relationships of the humans. We have rhythm. And we have cause. And we have effect. And these things are constant. These things are constant. And so when we go back into our desire, and desire is like having soup or a stew with just no flavor. And we know that if we have too much salt in our life, we can create a sickness. So, am I saying we don't need desire? No. I'm saying desire causes suffering. I know my wanting has caused suffering. Does that mean we don't practice to get to a certain point? No. Or train to get to a certain level? No. But when we overindulge in our pleasures, it creates a sickness. To try to solve a problem by asceticism also brings no liberation. You just get tied up. And you get tied up in doing things that you're just trying to harm yourself. Kind of like where you say, like, I know I'm right. I must be right because I'm hurting. I must create this hurt so I can create liberation. What? That's crazy. It doesn't... Are you serious? You mean if you take the story and of someone who's got to suffer before they liberate themselves, it doesn't make any sense. But yet, we do that with our suffering. Because you feel that's how you think you want to speed up your life. You think that's how our immature mind, my infantile desire is speeding up your process of suffering. But your desire is causing your suffering. So how do I not desire? By not desiring. And in Buddhism, there's a middle way. Hedonism and asceticism, there's a way between those two. And the middle way is very, it's very subtle. And the subtleness of the middle way is to create, not to create, but to understand the taste and the spewing, the action and the problem. And you can look at it this way and say, well, ask yourself, well, so for me, like, why am I desiring? Or why am I suffering? Because he says, there's a point. Why am I suffering? Why am I feeling in these lethargic way? It's because you desire. Oh, okay. So if I stop desiring, I'll stop suffering. If I didn't desire, I wouldn't suffer. So I have to realize that I have to stop desiring to stop my suffering. But wait a minute. If I stop desiring, then how do I continue on with my passion? Well, you can have passion, you just can't have lust. You can have progress, you just can't have wanting. But now I'm desiring to stop desiring. So how do I do that? I'm desiring so much to stop desiring. I'm desiring. And I've said this before. So when you're practicing the releasing of the suffering, and then, so like even one of my teachers says, you gotta stop desiring to stop desiring. And that suffering will release itself. So we end up trapping ourselves. We almost keep our suffering created. But what we're trying not to do, it's like ignoring happiness, ignoring love, ignoring a home, ignoring what life could be, and wanting so much of what you believe life should be, that we fight against living. It's like when Achilles approaches the tortoise. You have to bring yourself to catch up with where your life is, where your emotions are, so you become one with them. So you synchronize yourself with living. And we know that's the most difficult thing to do, is to accept oneself completely. And once we're able to do that, we have the effect, the one thing psychologically that so many therapeutic ways have said it is, but now you are one with all things. And for us to become one with all things, we're like, well then, who are the other things? Because we often try to get away with things of who we are. And that's the ignorance. That's the avoidance. We can only stop doing that through a series of experiments that I know I've tried. I try resolutely to get away from myself and then not learn how to know what myself is. And that's often what the middle way is. Do you know, we have these teachers like yogis, fakir, and the monk, and we have these education pieces out here that's going to allow us. Remember, even when I do these podcasts, I'm trying to get us to allow us. Yeah, allow me. Allow me to be free. Be free to explain, to live, to absorb the simple means of living. There are substances in the universe that totally aggregate of substance across space and time. And it has everything that can do with the contingent of the existence, but not the order of. The totality of things can only be created by its own existence of creation. This explanation only requires one understanding. Who thyself to be true. Not a truth, but truth. And that's what I'm talking about when it comes to living your best life. Understanding your suffering. Understanding your desire. It is not an obvious, true prediction of the foundation of your own mind, but the nature of all things and the purposeful position is explained in the action of who you are trying to be. To live your best life and understand that your desires are causing you suffering. Your desires is causing insignificant reasons for your inability to create a wholeness. Is there a set of true predictions of law that constitute a significant or sufficient reason for it to be true? Or is it just the laws of our own pious information? Unless we are able to heal and clear, and this is where I started from, this is where I recognize where I had to be. And it's not to develop a system. And I developed a system for training. It was called a 3D system. And I still do it in a lot of my teachings in the martial science. And the 3D system allows for you to bring your mind's eye, your mind and your brain together, your heart and your soul together, and your physicalness and your wills together. So those are the 3Ds that bring together. And this is nothing new. I didn't reinvent this. right? This is, it just took the teachings of what we've had throughout all of our lives, put them all together, and it's been, that's what I wanted to create, so I can teach it in my own mind. So it's not a system, but it's just an action of way. Throughout the series of errors in wood and objects, matters, emotions, spaces, and times, economic and consideration of what I have been through, I want to give it and share my love and passion with you, but not lust. I want to create, not desire. I don't want to completely get rid of desire, because then I have no taste like the salt in the stew and the soup. I analyze the importance of which is the unconsciousness in one's mental life, and the mirror of the universe that entails that one soul, which has actually created infinite number of complexities and perceptions. I understand that. I study myself to the point of healing myself, and I appreciate the healing of what could be construed as a wounded environment or a wounded experience, but those are mine. It has not blurred my perception, but it has furthered my eyesight. It has not weakened my heart, but it has strengthened my spirit to coddle my heart, to understand my soul. My anthology of living and existence goes way beyond my own mind. And so bringing that into the oneness of my own personal self now is part of the healing, which will decrease the desire of which will stop the suffering. Only the sounds and the vibrations of throughout all things can heal the movement that follows. The idea of perception only allows the principle of continuity. The ideas are perceptions that create continuity. Your ideas are only part of your wanting and could be ignored or ignorant to the truth of the possibilities. The human condition is a condition. Human understanding is living. Thank you for talking with me, and I'm Dr. Paul. You're listening to Bridges Live podcast, and you can always reach me on drpaulholisticscience.com. I hope this gets you from here to there, and I hope you bring yourself to the one. You bring yourself to the complete wholeness, because we're all working towards it, and we all need to stop suffering. I know I do. So, with this education and us moving forward, I wish you all a great, blessed day. Love you all.